What's up, Colorado Realtors? I'm Scott Peterson. Thank you for joining me for another edition of Legal Bites. We are knocking through this 2022 new contract changes series. This would be episode number 6. It may be my last one. I don't know. I got to look at the contract and kind of look at my notes to see if there's more than 6 areas where I've had some recurring hotline questions on areas of the contract that have changed. But I don't know. Stay tuned. Check back in next week and we'll see if there's other areas, and we'll do episodes 7, 8, and 9. This one is on the time of day deadline. What time is it? What time is the time of day? Well, I'm going to explain the go to bed piece because this change may enable you guys to go to bed a little bit. But you guys are night owls. If there's one thing I know about realtors in Colorado is they are night owls. You guys love laying in bed at night at like 11:45 p.m., flipping through your phone, looking at your emails, wondering, are they going to sign the inspection resolution? Are they going to withdraw their objection? What's going to happen here, right? That's been kind of common practice for a lot of years because up until January 1st of this year and the new set of contracts, the time of day that was embedded in the contract was 11:59 p.m. for every date and deadline, for every time deadline in the contract. I like to tell people that I have told my children for years that nothing good happens after midnight. And I think that's a truism as it relates to particularly young people out messing around after midnight. I'm starting to sound like an old fogey, which I'm not, but I am rarely out after midnight these days. But nothing good happens after midnight. I believe in the world of contract, nothing good happens around midnight, right? It's, people drink, it's Colorado, maybe a little bit of that. People fall asleep, people get distracted. Who knows what happens? But when it comes to having that 11:59 p.m. as a deadline, it could create some problems because somebody falls asleep or whatever may happen. All right. So you now have the ability in the contract to change this time of day. In the very first line of the dates and deadlines table, it says time of day. And your parties, I should say, have the ability, the buyer and the seller through their negotiations at your consultation and maybe your recommendation, can set as the time of day for the end of the day, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 3 p.m., whatever they're agreeing to, whatever makes sense for the parties based on their particular circumstances. I think most markets and most brokers are kind of going to naturally adopt some time. I don't know what the appropriate time necessarily is going to be, but you can now encourage the parties to address that in the time of day deadline. Remember, though, it only applies to objection deadlines, resolution deadlines, examination deadlines, and termination deadlines. So it doesn't apply, as an example, to delivery deadlines. So if you say it's 7 p.m. is your time of day for the transaction, it wouldn't mean that if it was 8 p.m. and a seller delivered a title commitment, because the delivery deadline is still going to be, for any of the delivery deadlines, 11:59 p.m. And there's maybe a handful of other deadlines, but the vast majority of deadlines can be addressed through modifying what is our time of day. If you leave that blank or you check or you put NA or leave it blank, it automatically reverts, just like you had it in the old days for you night owls, to 11:59 p.m. for every date and deadline. But I do think it makes sense to have a conversation with your client as to what makes sense for them, with the other broker who's going to be receiving the offer, and them with their seller client, to kind of settle on what makes sense for the parties on any particular transaction with regard to what the end of the day is, what the time of day is, the deadline is for those 4 categories of contingencies, okay? And nothing good happens around midnight in terms of contract. I just hear too much about people falling asleep and failing to sign a resolution or withdraw an objection or whatever the issue individually might be. So take advantage of this to the extent that it makes sense for your parties. And guess what? You can go to bed. Go to bed, realtors. You don't need to be up laying in bed at 11:45 at night wondering what the parties are going to do. Now, you're not acting in your self-interest, of course, and this is really strictly between the buyer and seller, but I do think there's a lot of good reasons for the parties and you to use this time of day deadline, back it up a little bit in the day to something where you can count on people being awake and being present and being, not being drunk or high or what have you. So anyhow, there you have it. If you have questions about that change or any other change in the contract, check us out at the Car Legal Hotline. It's available from 9 to 12 and 1 to 4 Monday through Friday. We'll see you next time on another edition of Legal Bites. Thanks, guys.